Hey everyone, welcome back to our expert series. It is Monday, and you know what that means. That means we bring back Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So we did an extra special off-the-cuff entrepreneur discussion last Tuesday, and that got rave reviews, lots of kind of feedback, and I thought it should be our opportunity to dig into that concept a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, so first, I think there may be something you wanted to clarify, right, about being a horrible employee. Let's start there.
Yeah. So when people hear that, they might think, uh-oh, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So when I say I'm a horrible employee, I always was. So I was military right out of high school. I worked in the corporate world for a while. So I've got a very strong work ethic. I've got, strong, sense of urgency, things like that. What I mean by being a terrible employee is I cannot fall into a system and just do enough to get by.
Right.
So in a lot of companies that I worked in places where I worked, like the managers in a restaurant that I was working under when I was learning restaurant management, they didn't want me to outshine them.
Right.
So the culture of the company was not to produce the best in me. The culture of these leaders, now the company was different. Culture of the company, they wanted everybody to do their best. But these individual people I had over me, they were so threatened by me because, I'm sharp, I'm hardworking. I mean, I was the first one in, the last one out.
Right.
Nobody would outwork me. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but you are not going to outwork me,
Right.
And I have a strong sense of urgency. I like to make things happen. I like to make things better. I like to find the most efficient way to do things. In a lot of environments, the military is one. That's not the way it works.
Right.
It's all about just bureaucracy, pace yourself, and you hear people working for like large companies, like IBM and just these huge companies that you get this bureaucracy at the higher levels. And, you work in corporate America.
Oh, yeah.
There's a level of bureaucracy where they actually do not encourage initiative, productivity, and things like that, especially back in my day. It was more about just do what you're told, get along, don't worry about whatever else is going on around you. And if people weren't doing their jobs around me, that used to make me mad. I'd be like, man, let's fix this. Let's make this the best company, the best division, the best department, whatever it is I was in.
Right.
So I would get bored very quickly because I knew I could make things better. I knew I was built for more and I could do more.
Right.
But my creativity was stifled. My growth potential was stifled. And, people were threatened by me. So I was like, that's what makes me a terrible employee.
Yeah. And that is so funny because, again, this just points to we're different sides of a same coin. I thrived in that environment, right? I was raised in a economically unstable childhood, right? Where money wasn't always around. So once I got the college degree and the master's degree and I kind of slotted my way into corporate America, I'm like, oh, you only want me to do X? If I do X in a little bit, I'm unusual. I kind of thrived in that. And it wasn't until I was 30 where I read that Rich Dad Poor Dad book that I even knew there was a difference. I'm like, I'm wired for this. I get it. Cause I was very risk averse. Again, we had seen layoffs and we'd been, again, it was traumatic, right? I can still remember it now, 40 years later. So I was like, sign me up, right? You want me to take an extra class, get an extra certification? Done, right? Whatever it is. That was for me. And it wasn't until that book that showed me there was another way. And it's just funny. And again, people are wired differently. Some were wired like you and some are wired like me. And it's just a weird world we're in.
And that's what I mean by when you look at your investments, or if you're an employee in a company, think like an entrepreneur, think like a business owner when you're making an investment, when you're running a business. And, you go back to the analogy of the GM employees, you got a bunch of executives that, with all these fancy degrees that are just paper pushers. Yeah. They're not there for the best interest of the company and the investors and the shareholders and the profitability of the company. They're there for self-preservation. Yeah. They're there to increase their salaries, their golden parachutes, and, get the corporate jet, right? That's a lot of the mentality at that big bureaucratic corporate level that you see. And you even see it in like public companies today, like a WeWork, okay?
Yeah.
Trying to go public as quick as they can so they can cash out on the investor's nickel. They're not thinking like business owners or entrepreneurs. If WeWork was thinking like a business owner or entrepreneur, they would have never bought one piece of real estate or leased one piece of space. They are a platform. They should have been the Airbnb of commercial office space. That's all they had to do.
Right.
Create the platform. You don't need to own anything.
Yeah.
So a business owner thinks that way. These guys are like, look, we need to bolster the balance sheet. We need to build all these assets.
Yeah.
That way we can raise money quicker.
Yeah. Go big, punch out, pick up the pieces later.
Yeah, and they had a non-sustainable, flawed business. There's no
Right.
real underlying business there. They're taking on all this space, with no users.
Yeah.
Versus let's be a platform, and
Yeah.
let's be the Airbnb of that. Let's be the Uber of that market.
Yeah. And again, I experienced that. So, right as I'm getting near the end of my career, I was somewhere between 3 and 4 levels below corporate, Fortune 500 CEOs, billionaires.
Yeah,
And you really do, not necessarily the tippity top, but if you went down 1 layer and certainly 2 layers, right, to probably, I'd call it so below the CX, whatever, right? So the EVP and the senior VP level,
mm-hmm.
most of them, you could see in their behavior, they were making decisions that would personally benefit their bonus, their options, their whatever. And when you question them on it, man, did the freaking knives come out. That's
Yeah, corporate bureaucracy and egotism. Egotism is a worse disease, and it's a disease. It's worse than alcoholism. It's cost more deals. It's caused more lack of productivity. There's been more opportunity lost in corporate America because of egos, more so than alcoholism or drug addiction. The numbers are probably 4 to 5 times the amount of opportunity and profit potential lost because of egos. And so on the flip side of that, what that instilled in me was I did not want to become a leader manager like what I had experienced. Mm-hmm. I wanted to run an organization that freed everybody up in the organization to think and act like entrepreneurs. So I had my people, and the analogy I use when I would talk to people, I say, working with me, and I would always say with me. Nobody works for me. I work for you. If you're in my organization, I'm working for you. So when people work with me, I'm there to serve you, number one, but number two, you're an entrepreneur. You have your own business within the umbrella and protection of this corporation. Yeah. So that's how I run my businesses, and that's how I do things, is I free people up to be entrepreneurs, to think for themselves. I expect them to think for themselves. I expect them to make their own decisions, take risk, make mistakes, things like that. And then when they do, own it, fix it so that we don't have that problem again, and then put a system in place to keep it from happening and then move forward. So that's what's exciting to me about the world of entrepreneurship and what kind of leader I wanted to become. In my organizations.
Yeah. And that's really where I spent the last 10 years of my career, was basically running little mini entrepreneur shops. Cause I was a sales leader. I had teams, everybody had their own, it was their company, right? You have a list of accounts, you have products to sell, you have teams to help you. Let's go. Right. And it was amazing to watch the people that attacked it and owned it versus the people that kind of sat back and let the company do their thing and, picked up the pieces. And clearly when you owned your little mini, company X, usually the rewards were outstanding. I worked with people that routinely made 7 figures because they owned it. They made the decisions. They tried new things. It didn't work. They improved. It was amazing to watch. And many of these sales reps would be great entrepreneurs because they just kept going. And really what I think a great entrepreneur is it's not necessarily that you seek failure, but you're willing to fail. But you not only fail, but you get your ass up and then you learn from it. That's the most amazing thing I've seen. I see some people run into the wall and sit down and wait for someone else to pick them up. Other people run in the wall, they dust themselves off. They go, okay, if I can't go through it, can I go over it? Can I go around it? Can I dig a tunnel under it? Can I blow it up? It was amazing to watch. So let's talk about failure a little bit, because I think it's a cost of doing business. I think it's an important part of it. So I'd love to hear what you think about failure.
Well, the cultures are different. So in corporate America, failure can be discouraged because if you make a mistake, if you fail, well, they're going to come down on you. Your boss is going to come down on you. You're going to get punished. So people are afraid to take risk. They're afraid to produce and do more because they know there's going to be repercussion for that failure. Contrast that with an entrepreneurial mindset. We embrace it, we encourage it, and we look for it. I want to fail because now I know that doesn't work. So let's fix it, move on. What's next? So I didn't care who did something. I wanted to know why it happened. How can we fix it? What system can we put in place to move forward? So if you're building a company, if you're doing a real estate venture, whatever it is, you want to find out what doesn't work as quickly as you can so that you can focus on what does work and then scale that. So as an entrepreneur, failure is just part of the process. It's part of the journey, and it's what produces greatness. Yes. You can't be great until you have failed great. And everybody is going to fail. Now, That doesn't mean you're going to end up in bankruptcy. It doesn't mean you're going to lose a ton of money. It just means that failure is something that you set out to do does not work. Now, the big difference is between an entrepreneur and, anybody else, average, employee, whatever, manager, like a GM. Those executives had nothing to lose when that company failed. Right. As an entrepreneur, we have everything to lose when something fails, because we have it all on the line. If you're a private company, once you go public, it's different. And then you're no longer personally, on the hook for those things when things do go wrong. So that's really the difference between an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is willing to take the risk and to risk everything for a venture, for an idea, for something. And that's the real key. And that's where I talk about being able to accurately calculate the risk financially. What is that number? If things don't work out, what is that going to cost? Can I absorb that and continue to move forward? And if you can't, then, you may not want to go down that road, but entrepreneurs are like, you know what, who cares? I'm going anyways. I got the idea. I got the vision. This is going to help a ton of people. Remember, we talked about entrepreneurship is about serving and solving problems for the whole, not for the one. So sometimes it's damn the torpedoes. And, if that happens, I can't afford that to happen, but whatever, I'm going.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think we're in an interesting time, right? I think we still have some more unemployment to come. Unfortunately, I think we are in a soft economy. There's a double dip recession threat, at least out there. There's an election coming up where the rules could change. You just don't know what's coming. But I think entrepreneurs are the answer, right? I just think about restaurants in general, right? We all have heard scary statistics from 30 to 60% of restaurants won't make it through, right? Mom and pop stuff.
Yeah.
But I am convinced that the restaurant entrepreneurs post this event will be stronger than ever. They'll have cheaper leases. They'll have cheaper employees. I mean, the future is bright. We do have to get through some mucky waters. But again, I think entrepreneurs are the answer to what we're going through. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And 80%, the statistics are 80% of, small businesses fail in the first 5 years anyway. So a lot of these businesses were on a bad path to begin with. This is the great accelerator. You and I, talked about the great experiment. This is the great accelerator. So whatever was broken in the economy, it just got accelerated and amplified with Corona. So you either get more efficient, you adapt, you overcome, and then you move forward. Once we get through this, like you said, you're going to be off to the races. You can consolidate. So if you're watching this and you're a small business owner and you want to grow and expand, this is the greatest time in history ever for that to happen, because you can go take over other businesses that have operators that know how to run it, but just don't have the support and the back office and the structure to be able to do that. So you can come in and let's say you're a cupcake shop, okay, and you're a great business person. You got a couple, 2-3 stores. Well, you can start going in and taking over cupcake shops, get that owner, have them work for you under your system, and grow and expand like that. So,
well, let's take that analogy one step further, because I like that. Not only can you take over other cupcakes, but frankly, you could diversify. You could not only take up cupcakes, but then you could do donuts and you could do cakes. And then all of a sudden you have these independent operators, and then you can cross-pollinate, right? You can take, 10% of the cakes that were baked here, put them at the cupcake shop, take some of the cupcakes, put it at the bake shop. I mean, if you really wanted to roll up a business, you can go from being a cupcake business to a dessert business. Yeah. And, there's lots of opportunity there, I think, coming in the future. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And again, a lot of great operators out there, and it's going on in a lot of industries. There's a lot of salons that are consolidating. There's restaurants that are consolidating. I mean, Tillman Fertitta, with Landry Restaurants, that's how he grew, by acquiring other chains of restaurants. So
Bubba Gump, as I remember.
Yeah. For people that have the capital and have the back office to support, and the systems, now's a great time to go in. There's a lot of, great concepts that are, available right now for you to just step into and just take them over. You don't have to pay for them.
Yeah. This again, I want to go back to, I think entrepreneurship is the answer. I do see, again, six
problem, solution, serving people. How do I solve a problem where I can serve people and provide a great solution that everybody's looking for?
I'm going to write that down. Problem. What was it? Problem. And then into a serve. What was the second one?
Yeah. So, how can I solve the problem? So problem, solution, and serving others.
I like that.
Yeah. So you want to solve the problem by providing a solution that ultimately serves others, because as an entrepreneur, that's what you're doing. You're serving people. A lot of people don't realize that. That's what an entrepreneurship, it should be servership.
Entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. Because that's what you're doing. You're
Right.
serving people. You're serving humanity. You're creating opportunity for everybody. Like you said, the solution to the economy, to the economic machine, is entrepreneurship, right? And all of the big shops start as little shops, right? Every great corporation out there right now started somewhere in this little something.
You're so right.
Whether it's Bezos's garage, or
You're right.
Steve Jobs' apartment building, or
Whatever.
Mark Zuckerberg in the dorm, and GM.
Yeah, you're right.
Started Henry Ford. He started out making one little car, and it's really interesting.
Yeah. Again, I think this is probably one of the most positive videos I've had. It just hit me like a lightning strike that entrepreneurship is going to be the answer to this. Again, I think we have to get through some dark days in 2020, which, man, 2020 gets a 1 star from me. It's not a 5-star year. 1 star. What's a 1-star year, man? Damn, 2020. We got to get through it. But I think 2021 is going to be the year of the entrepreneur. I really do.
Yeah, it definitely can be. So how about we talk about, for those that are listening that are in a career and they're like, man, I always want to do this thing, but I've got this job and I've got these benefits and I have this family. So, I've talked about the right time. There's never a bad time to start. You can always start where you are. You can start part-time if you've got a passion, if you've got something, especially now with the world we're in with online. You can sell, courses, education programs. You can teach, guitar lessons, artwork, culinary, teach people how to cook, whatever your passion or your skills are. Everybody's great at something. Everybody has something that they get paid to do now, that they can produce something later. And, the gig economy, that's changing a little bit, but there's still tons of gig economy opportunities out there for people to fill a need, serve others. So again, think about serving others, filling a need. You don't have to come up with the next widget or the next Facebook or the next Amazon, but you can take them and make them better, and take certain things and make them better. And, so if you're working in a career or a job and you want to do something else, whether it's invest in real estate, whether it's start a business or whatever, start part-time while you're where you are. And depending on where you are in your life cycle, if you're young and you don't have any kids, you don't have any risk, go for it and go big, because you can afford to take that risk now because you don't have anything else to worry about. You got to feed yourself. Worst case scenario, you go move back in with your parents, live in a car, whatever. There's a lot of ways you can recover. If you've got a kid, you got families and all that, a little bit different. You got to calculate that risk a little bit better. Make sure you've got enough reserves before you take that leap, full time, or know that you can generate the revenue that you need to generate monthly to survive if you don't have the cushion. But the thing about entrepreneurship is you can never be too early. You can never be too young. You can never be too old, but you can be too late. So you don't want to get to the end of your life looking back and go, dang, man, I wish I would have tried. I always wanted to try and I never did. So you can never be too young. You can never be too old, but you can be too late.
I like that. And again, I think we're going to walk into opportunities where lots of creative people, I'm going to be really excited to see what 2022 looks like, because I think the economy is going to be stronger, probably a lot stronger. We are going to have more entrepreneurs. I actually think one of the things we're seeing today with the stay-at-home thing is a lot of the big places are getting bigger. But I actually think what's going to happen is we're going to see a revolt to local. You're going to see a lot of local, once we can get out and like socialize and not feel like we're going to kill each other with this virus thing. So,
well, it's who's solving the problems right now. The problem is we can't get out. We don't want to. So, who's solving those? Yep. A lot Amazon. Of retailers are going, well, and it's other retailers. So every store you walk into now, they're reducing their inventory as they should.
Yeah.
And they're saying, hey, we can order it for you. So every retailer, needs to be online and have a huge online presence.
For sure.
And that's an easy scenario right now. If you're in a business, if you are a business owner or a small entrepreneur, and you need customers, man, you can reach people on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. It's cheap. It's easy. You got to get out there and promote it and build your online presence. And let's go back to the person who's stuck in the W-2 wants to make that transition.
Yep.
So, how do you do that? So put it down in numbers, make yourself a little business plan and say, I need to make, 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, whatever it is. And then if you have this skill that is going to bring in X amount of dollars, break that down. So that I need so many sales to generate this kind of income, and I have so much time available towards doing it. So put it down on paper, make an actual plan, and start getting customers, start selling products, start doing whatever your thing is. Figure out how much you need to do, how much it should cost. Start with one, whether you're, whatever it is. So it really starts that easy. So it's the idea, faith in it, and the means to implement it. So you got to put that plan down in action and start taking action, working towards it. If you want to buy a property, okay, I'll ask a lot of people, man, I can't find any deals. I'm like, well, how many offers have you made this week? Well, none. I'm like, well, you'll never get a deal if you don't make an offer. So if you want to buy property and you want to start building an investment portfolio, you got to start making offers. I don't care what somebody asks.
Yeah.
Make an offer where it needs to be to work for you based on the financing that you can get, the cash flow you're looking for, and what your return, requirements are. You can pay anything you want for a piece of property as long as it matches your return requirements and it cash flows.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what the market says or what the seller says or what other buyers say.
Exactly.
What can you pay?
Yeah.
And then start making offers.
No, I totally agree. One of the things you get really good at when you lead sales teams and you have monthly and quarterly quotas, and you can get fired if you don't hit your numbers, is you take your bogey, right? They call it a quota, and let's just make up a number, call it $2 million. What I was really, really good at is I would always take that number and I would break it down into discrete parts, right? A $2 million bogey with an average sale price of $500K. I'm just making this up on the fly. It means you got to sell 4. Well, in order to sell 4, it means you have to have 8, qualified people. In order to have 8 qualified people, it means you have to do 16 of these. And in order to have 16 of these, you got to do 32 of these. And once you break it down into the discrete parts, you realize that a $2 million quota means you need to see 114 people. And then what do? You don't track the $2 million quota. I track the talking to 114 people. And that's how we always blew out our number. I hit my number every quarter except 2. One we got really close, but still doesn't count. And one we screwed up. But that's
so
how
it's
you do
leads, leads to appointments to transactions. And that's in any business, no matter what it is. You got to have so many people coming through the door to make so many sales to hit your quota. And that's awesome, because at the end of the day, number 1, you got to take the action to drive the leads. Number 2, you got to make an offer. Yeah. Nothing gets sold without an offer. So if you have something to sell, you have to make an offer. So if you're self-employed, if you're working for a job and you want to get out on your own, think about it in those terms. Break it down and start thinking about how many people do I need to talk to reach that goal. Even if you're raising capital for a deal. I hear a lot of people say, oh man, it's hard to raise capital. I can't raise capital. I'm like, well, how many conversations are you having? Exactly. I talk to a lot of people, and they're like, oh yeah, I'd love to invest. Well, that's not a commitment. That's not even a soft commitment.
No.
Okay. Have a system that your investors, they get put into, they log in, their accreditation is checked, or their qualifications or whatever boxes you need to check are checked. They get the documents that you need to have them review in advance of that offering coming out, like the legal paperwork.
Yep.
What does a subscription agreement look like? What does your PPM look like? What does your operating agreement look like for a deal?
Yeah.
So those questions are answered in advance. And then how much money do you have that you can commit right now when a deal comes available? So that is a soft commitment. A lot of people think a soft commitment is, Michael, you tell me, oh yeah, I'm looking for property. Oh, hey, let me know when you find one. I'd love to invest. People will call that a soft commitment.
Yeah.
That's not a soft commitment. That's like everybody's interested until it comes time to write the check, right? Yeah. Kind of like you're throwing a barbecue in your backyard, and people are like, oh man, your ribs are so good. You should open a restaurant. I will come. Yeah, and everybody thinks, okay, what happens? They go open a restaurant, nobody comes, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's right. Again, that's one of the things that folks need to do. I've talked to several wholesalers, right? People running their own shop, and they're always talking about the check, right? The contract. I'm like, no, you've got to break down your business. You don't ever, again, I can't tell you how many times we always met the first day of a new quarter, a new year, that talked about the number, right? In our earlier example, it was 2 million. Then the next 89 days, I would never talk about 2 million. I would talk about how many people we have talked to, because I'm tracking the 114, right? That's just how you do it. And, oh, by the way, the other small subtlety here is I would never talk about 2 million. I would talk about 4 million, because I'm not interested in only hitting my goal. I want to blow it out and make a lot of money. So we wouldn't even talk about 2 million. We talk about 4 million. We wouldn't talk about 114. We talk about 228. That's just how I ran the business. And it's amazing. Once the team gets in that, flywheel, pretty soon you don't have 228 conversations. You have 300. And then life gets really good. So,
it's every business. Once you determine what it takes to reach your goal, then it's just a matter of the numbers, so, for every 100 people I talk to, X is going to happen, or for every, 100 people that walk into my store, X is going to happen. Yeah. So you just start learning what those are. Then the next level to that is, once they're in the system, lifetime value of that customer, what else, where else, what else can I sell them? Where else can I be of service to them? How else can I help them in their life? What else, where else, how else, in terms of your existing database and client base. But there are some that are just one off, one and done, and you'll never see them again. But, those are the critical components of a business. You got to know your numbers. You got to know the metrics. You got to know your business. You have to be an expert. So you can go take over bakeries all day long if you're a cupcake shop. But if you don't know how to bake a cake, well, you better either learn or you better get somebody who does,
right.
That can teach you the business and they know what's going on. So you got to become an expert. You got to surround yourself with experts, and you got to take action. So that's more than anything else. We can break the numbers down. We can know. At the end of the day, you got to pick the phone up.
Take action. Yeah. The other thing I would tell entrepreneurs, right, if again, just to use the example of $2 million, I have always found that people want to shortchange the connection between all the activities that lead to the outcome. I would tell you there's at least 5 things at minimum. And sometimes if you're in complex enterprise sales like I am, and there's 7 or 8 things, but you have to track back, right? What leads to that sale, right? And I would challenge yourself to get to at least 5. You got to get to at least 5. It's not 2. It's not, I do X, X goes to Y, Y goes to sale. It's never that simple. It's just never that simple.
And for anybody who's in sales, corporate sales or whatever, it's tough right now because you can't have those face-to-faces and things like that. Take what Michael just said, because everybody has those steps, that presentation, that process. Record a video, make it nice, use some slides, use a whiteboard, whatever you need to use, video that sales presentation. Now you've got something that's evergreen that you can send out to all your clients instantly that takes them through that journey. And, that's the webinars that you see online for people selling information products, things like that. It's that customer journey process from the time they get exposed to your brand until they become a client. I don't care if you're selling cars, man. If you're selling cars, get out there, make a video on the whole process of that vehicle and how it works and the whole 9 yards, and send that out to people so that they can go through the journey on their own time.
Totally agree.
Get to know you and your products and your services before they ever come in contact with you. So you got to innovate, you got to adapt, you got to overcome. We're in that economy right now. That's what's being entrepreneurial within your business, within your job. That's what it's all about, is that entrepreneur. Now, what about transitioning from business owner, to entrepreneur to investor? Because that's what you've got: employee, business owner, entrepreneur, investor.
Okay. Let's do it. What do you think?
Yeah. So we know what an employee is. Business owner to me is defined by somebody who's in their business every day. So it can be large, it can be whatever, but you're showing up every single day. And if you don't show up, it doesn't really function well. Agreed. Entrepreneur is, generally that's the individual that's not the best at running the business. That's the one like me. I'm great at coming up with the ideas. I'm great at marketing, promotion, getting it going. I'm not the guy that you want running it day to day. I'm the guy that you want overseeing everybody running it day to day. So that's entrepreneur. Investor is the next evolution, where now I've got these businesses, I've got these real estate assets, I've got these financial investments, I've got community organizations and philanthropic activities. So that's transitioning through the stages, and that's the kind of what the Rich Dad quadrant kind of takes you, cash flow quadrant kind of takes you through, is those stages, from employee to self-employed to business owner to investor. And that investor is ultimately somebody who at the end of the day can walk away from everything. Income keeps coming in. Yeah. So that's where you want to get to. You own the businesses, you own the assets that pay you whether you're there or not. And that's when I read Rich Dad, I was like, I want to be Rich Dad. He's teaching Kiyosaki and everybody else, and they're taking over and they're doing all the work, and he's kicking back and collecting the money. And he doesn't even have to show up. I wanted to be.
I think that's so funny. You read the book and want to be Rich Dad. I'm an idiot and want to be freaking Robert Kiyosaki. Like, damn it, I should have been Rich Dad. Wow.
That's everybody. Everybody wants to be Robert Kiyosaki. I'm like, I want to be Rich Dad.
When you told me that like 3 weeks ago, I'm like, damn it, I'm such an idiot. Why did I read the book that way? That's just, everybody's different. That's awesome. But yeah, I think the transition to investor, the walk away, the money comes in no matter what. That's really a lot of people's goal. Do you think you have to go through that spectrum? You just can't wake up one day and be an investor, right?
Sure, you can. It just depends on where you come from and how you come. So, where that occurs most often is generational wealth. So, family offices and, people are born, they wake up from day one managing the family's wealth.
Yeah.
So it can be that. It can be people that go through college, get their education and then come out and they hit the ground running, investing, buying properties that, pay them, and build a company, investing in property, investing in companies, things like that. So you can definitely make the transition at any level, from skip the employee and all that, go straight to investor. Depends on what your resources are. and the opportunities that are available to you. And especially right now, with the companies that are available out there and businesses that you can buy, take over, walk into, real estate assets, things like that. There's really never been a better, interest rates, there's never really been a better time, than right now. That's why you're seeing all these SPACs, special purpose acquisition companies being put together, to buy companies and things like that. And that's why you're seeing companies merge and, stuff like that. So it's
interesting you bring that up, because I just saw this morning that we've had a record month for raising of debt, corporate debt. And it's only the middle of the month. That's scary. And again, I saw last week there was junk bond, $1 billion. I think it was $1.2 billion was put out at under 3%. A junk bond. I mean, are you kidding me? What is going on? There is a lot of credit going on today. So it is,
money's looking for yield, and that's the most dangerous, most vulnerable sector of the economy right now is corporate debt. And that's where we're going to see a lot of bankruptcies, is in the corporate sector. So a lot of that debt would just get written off and wiped out. Maybe there's some asset liquidations that can repay the principal, but they've made a little bit of yield along the way. So it's very interesting to me, the companies that are able to finance their debt. Now, a lot of it's being bought by the government, which is kind of what's driving the stock market and, driving asset inflation right now. It's because the Fed and Treasury are stepping in, buying these bonds, buying, treasuries and things like that, which is putting liquidity into the hands of investors to put into risk assets. So behind a lot of those corporate bonds is the government.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting times. I really am looking forward to 2021 being the year of the entrepreneur. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up today's session?
Yeah. So, on the entrepreneurship topic, I think the greatest space to be in the world is to be an entrepreneur, because as we know right now, any business can get shut down at any time. Anything can happen. The only real security you have is in yourself, and in your skill sets and your knowledge and your education moving forward. So first and foremost, pour into yourself, pour into your knowledge, build your skill sets. And, I think everybody should have a little something on the side, to move forward with if and when you have to. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to start your own thing, just calculate it, right? So know what it takes, know what's required, know what you need to do, and start doing it now. Prove your concept now before you leave that job. A lot of people want to just quit and go do something, or they want to skip and fast forward and not go through the processes. You got to prove your concept first and get out there and make sure there's a market for what you're doing, and there's a problem that you can actually solve, and there's a service that you can actually provide, and that will generate revenue profitably before you just take that jump.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time. This has been a great conversation. You have a wonderful week. All right.
Yeah. You too, Michael.
Thank you, buddy.